Glyph Heights. I really don't know where to begin. Also, if I decide not to race this course, do I have to make the Recon video? Just roll the intro. Let's get this over with. While we've had our fun in the Zwift Racing League so far, we come up to stage 5 of round 1, which is Glyph Heights. If you don't know, stage 5, Glyph Heights, has a total of 617 meters of climbing. Whew! And that's not all. This race is also 34 kilometers long, so it's not a short race. There's tons of climbing, but it's also a points race, so I guess we get off a little easier. I'm not sure. It's going to be hard. FAL points have been restructured this year, and they are the big point grabber for segments. For example, the first 20 riders across the segments line will be getting points this year, and it's going to be 20 for first place and 1 all the way down to 20th place of first across the line. Now, like we saw in the first points race of this series, it's fast paced. There's a lot of jockeying for position and breakaways, and you really don't know what's going to happen. You might jump too early, you might jump too late. There's a lot of things that'll go into this, and it really makes for some rubber racing. Now, with tons of points in that FAL column, it's more strategic to be in the front of the pack than it was to be in the back. And this also kind of replicates tour races, where the first few riders will be able to get those bonus seconds at the end of the race or end of the segment, and it forces some rubber racing, and it actually feels like real cycling when riding these races, which I love. Now, moving over to FTS, or fastest through the segments, don't worry, there's still points, but it's only for the top 5 riders. And you might be thinking, only 5 riders are getting points, and that's concerning. Like, why really go for it? There's only 10 points for first place, and if you get 5th, you only get a measly 2 points for your team. With this new point structure on the FTS segments, you're gonna see a lot more racing because people can't just slow down or change bikes when they feel like they need to be a little faster on a certain segment, which I love. Again, another great change by Zwift and the WTRO team. And now the last 2 ways to win points is obviously your finishing position in the end of the race, and that's going to be just based on how many riders are in the race, and then also your podium finishes, your podium bonus finish points, which is the same as the FTS segments, where it's first place gets 10 extra points, and if you get 5th, it's only a measly 2. But those are still extra points for being on the podium and actually being faster than everyone else in your race. Now, just like the first points race, only certain segments and certain KOM spots are going to be giving FTS points and also FAL points. For Glyph Heights, there's going to be 3 total segments, and I have Zwift and Rob to thank for not making me tell all of you that everything has points, just like last time. Now, FAL points. There's only 1 segment in this race, and that's going to be the ITSA KOM. Now, the ITSA KOM starts at the 8.5 kilometer mark, so be aware that this is going to be the first FAL segment. Also, note that the first FTS segment is also going to be on this ITSA KOM, and this is a backbreaker for sure. Now, in my notes, the Mountainside Mayan KOM is under the ITSA KOM. So I'm going to assume the FTS segment is only on the second time up the KOM and not the first. If I'm wrong on this, I apologize to anyone that goes full out gas and gets it on the first time up. But note that I believe that it is only the FTS segment for the second time up the climb. Now, moving on to the power-ups for this race, you're going to be getting the feather which is going to pop up 80% of the time, which is good because you're going to want it for the It's a KOM. You're going to want it for the Mayan Mountainside KOM. You're going to want it for the grade and the end of the epic KOM climb. And then you're going to also want it again when you're going up the Mayan Mountainside climb again. It's like we should just all have feathers. All the time. And for the unlucky 20% that will be getting draft boosts, I mean, listen, Zwift just wasn't on your side in this race. And you can complain about that in the comments of this video after the race. Please, the comments should just be complaining about the amount of draft boosts you got. Maybe you went all 5 draft boosts. How awful would that be? It's not gonna happen to me. Coming out of the pens, you have to remember these sprint segments that are up, they reward 0 points and there's no reason to go for them sprint-wise, FTS points, or FAL-wise. So just ignore them altogether. They're just another part of the circuit that we don't have to worry about. As we make our way through the jungle, we are going to be taking a right towards the Mayan Mountainside KOM, and this starts at about 6 kilometers into the race. The total grade averages out at 3.1% and is a total of 2 kilometers long. Now the thing about this first KOM is that it is not that difficult. Now there is a spot where it peaks to an 8% climb, but for the most part it's 4%, 3%, and a 5% gradient. 1.7 kilometers into this climb, it's going to completely flatten out at the top, and be careful because at the end there could be a big sprint segment, and if you're not ready for it, you might lose some points. Now, if you are going for those FTS points or finishing points at the second half of this race on the Mayan Mountainside climb, just note that 300 meters before the finish, it's going to flatten out and it's going to be a full-on, full-gas sprint. If you don't have enough juice, just be careful because some people are going to put the absolute power down, getting some huge watts and fly past you at the finish. It's like I've been there before. But just note, for the first time, it's really just getting up into that front group, staying with everyone, and keeping your heart rate down, because our first segment of the race is coming very shortly, and that's the It's a KOM. Like I said previously, this is going to be a 2-parter. We have FAL points on the table and FTS as well. The It's a KOM does start at 8.7 kilometers into this race, and duly note that there are rollers in the beginning of this climb. Now the It's a KOM is only rated with 2% gradient average throughout the whole 3.8 kilometers, which makes you think that it is an easier climb, but you are going to be wrong. The reason that it's only a 2% average is that there are quite a few rollers that starts this climb. Now for the first few kilometers of this It's a KOM, it's going to be a basically 3 to 6% of rollers, and I think there's only 3 or 4 of them. So you can make your pace, go hard up the hills, try to relax on the downhills, but keep that pace high because there's big points on the table for this KOM. About 11.1 kilometers into this race, we're going to be coming up to the stone bridge, and this is kind of where the climb becomes difficult. Now at this point, you are going to be faced with a solid 5 to 6% climb up this bridge, and then it's going to peak up to 9% on you. Ouch! Your legs are going to be screaming at this point, but the thing is, it's going to flatten out to about a 2 to 1% incline, and you cannot let go on the power. You have to make sure that you're keeping the pressure down and that you get your speed up so you can attack the next part of the segment. Now 11.7 kilometers into the climb, you're going to reach a point where it's coming back to a 6% incline. At this point, you're going to note that your legs are probably really tired, but you're almost done. You need to put the pressure down, get everything out at this point if you're going for segments. This is where it's going to matter. It's going to peak up to 11% at one point of this climb, and then it's going to flatten out to a decent 34% into a flat area. Now, just like the KOM before, it's going to flatten out a little before the finish line. So you're going to want to make sure that you keep that pressure down, keep the pedals spinning, and keep that effort going hard, because you want to be first through that segment banner and be first for your team. Now that end banner is at 12.4 kilometers into the race, and we're gonna have a little under a kilometer of recovery before we face the second half of the grade and the top of the epic KOM. Now from the 13 kilometer mark all the way up to 15 kilometers into the race, you're gonna have the end of this grade KOM. Now this isn't fun, and it starts off somewhat easy and peaks up to about 13% near the end. Now my quick note for this, for climbing, is to get out of the saddle and really get into a good rhythm. Don't worry too much about other riders that may pass you. There's a good chance that they can't hang on for the whole climb. Now, if they are able to hold on to that full climb, they still have to get up to the top of the epic KOM, which also isn't easy. I do recommend setting your pace smoothly and don't try to pull yourself out of it. The more pain, the more suffering you go through during this climb is going to help you get to the top faster. But you don't want to blow yourself out. If you blow yourself out, this climb is going to be basically the death of your race. And honestly, you got to get those big points for your team. Think about them before yourself. At this point of the race, I'm guessing that the peloton is going to be absolutely demolished. There is going to be people everywhere. So, if you're looking to get through, get some big points, I believe this is the turning point of the race, the top of the epic KOM. You need to dig deep here. Get to the top, and then you have a nice descent down the hill. Now, the second time we see the Mayan Mountainside KOM is going to be at the 31.4 kilometer point. Now, we've already seen this KOM climb once today, so why not do it a second time? We have an FTS segment bonus at the top of the hill, and also podium finishes and your finishing points as well. So a lot of points can be awarded on this climb. I'm guessing that the people that still have legs are going to be going up this hill as fast as possible. If you're in that front group, there's a high chance that you will be getting those points for both the podium bonuses and the FTS segment. If you're not in that front group, I still recommend you trying to go up that KOM as fast as humanly possible to get some FTS points, even if it's just a measly 2 points at 5th. And at this point, 33 kilometers into this race, we have a 300-meter sprint. If you have anything left to give, this is where it is time. Get to the top, get through the finishing banner, hop off your bike, and hopefully you survive the rest of your day. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. That is the third time that I've recorded this. Thanks to Zwift for the information on the segment points that's going to be awarded this week. And as always, I appreciate every one of you for watching these videos. Make sure you hit the like button. Please subscribe. I'm trying to get to 200 subscribers by the end of the year. And also, I'm going to have the whole race right after this. And I think that's it for me. Thanks for watching, and good luck this week. You're gonna need it.